to Let's Talk with Parul. We thought on the occasion of Children's Day, let's take up an agenda that's really important as far as they are concerned. What we need to know, what we learn, how we apply to our life couldn't be of more importance today. But how ready is our education system to deal with these changes and prepare our students for tomorrow? We asked some high school students and those who have recently started undergrad studies about what they felt were the biggest drawbacks of our education system. What was really unfortunate was that what they felt was exactly what you and I must have felt when we were in school, and likewise for so many generations in between. So is it enough to put the entire onus of learning on the education system, on policymakers, on our teachers? What can we as parents do to support learning as opposed to studying? Let's ask inspirational orator, author, storyteller, leadership and mentoring coach, Jeroninio Almeida, for some answers and for his roadmap that has already benefited thousands of parents and teachers in several schools and institutions around the world.
So namaste, Parul.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
it's such a pleasure to have you here. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We have an audience of parents watching us, and I'm sure all the questions that I raise right now and, very briefly is probably top of mind for all of us right now. I'm going to ask you for more specific like a roadmap or a charter for parents as to what we can do. But before that, I'd just like to play this video. We spoke with a few students and, we just asked them questions about what is wrong with the system that you are going through. And also those who have just joined college, because for them, it's absolutely fresh. They've come out of a system of 14 years and they've gone into a completely new system. And what is it? What are the challenges that they are facing? So let's see what they have to say.
I feel one of the drawbacks, apart from rote learning, is the fact that everything we're taught during the school year is just for the exam at the end of the school year. Nothing is for our own learning purpose.
There is no basic understanding of any of the concepts that you have learned. It's definitely not about the quality of what you have learned. Why is E equal to MC square? I still don't know.
Every piece of information that we're given has a marking scheme with it. For example, if you write this point, you're going to get 1 mark. If you miss it, you will lose your marks for that answer. The same applies to keywords as well, because a student can understand the concept, you can have it in your head, but you miss out on those 1 or 2 keywords that you need for the answer and you have suddenly lost all your marks.
Creative subjects like English allow room to explore, things that aren't formatted or systematic. It's a free-flowing, fluid subject. And sadly, I am more often than not caught memorizing answers, which sounds quite bizarre because English is a subject where I get to explore other areas of my vocabulary, and I'm not being able to because of these keywords that limit me.
In ISC and ICSC, when I would write argumentative essays, I would write introduction, stanza, conclusion. When I was in school, I felt like I had to follow this strict ladder and I couldn't change things around. But now I feel like if I don't change things around, my paper will be very basic and it won't make the impact that I want it to make on my audience.
We are not exposed to information about the current affairs of the world that we live in. In school, we really live in this safe bubble, and so a lot of students are not prepared for the real world which we have to face after school.
There are way too many examinations. I'm currently in the 12th grade and I have a total of 4 examinations that I have to give before I give my board. So that's a total of 5 examinations during 1 academic year.
Nothing changes. So somebody who is 15 years older than me probably studied what I studied in class 12. And not just the material, but also the questions in the exams also never change. If you look at like the past year papers, which is what we used to study for our board exams, you'll see that a lot of the questions are repeated every alternate year or every 3rd year. So essentially you can predict what will come in your paper. So the engagement with what you're learning and the engagement with your text never extends beyond just your textbook and your teacher. So you will never want to learn anything outside of that because you know you will not be asked questions on it.
Another problem is the fact that school doesn't really teach us life skills which we would use in our daily lives in the future, such as filing taxes. The last major problem I see with our education system is the lack of sex education. I think most students are aware of the cases of sexual harassment throughout our country, and I believe that schools should impart some form of sexual education so as to help their students and the society that they live in.
In 8th grade, I lacked the maturity to know what I want to be in the future. By taking psychology, I had to forego math. And because of that choice that I had made in 8th grade, I cannot apply to any colleges for BCom honors in Delhi University. Okay, in 8th grade at age 13, we have made a wrong decision. The system doesn't allow us flexibility to change our course.
So there you go. Loads of feedback, and there's so many points which came out. There are many more.
Like some of the kids were talking about the life skills, being prepared for transformation is missing. And I'm right now speaking to a set of parents from the US whose son refuses to listen to them because something has gone wrong somewhere. And it's simply that, you know, we don't understand that they have their own minds to think.
Right.
And I think we should encourage them to think better rather than saying, I know what is good for you. Because most of us as parents are so outdated.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, when I'm working with parents, they don't even know that there is a whole industry called gaming out there.
Right. Right.
And if they know it, it's because Byju's and White Hat Junior has sold to them that we will teach your child coding and make them billionaires overnight. Hey, that's bunkum nonsense. And how can you teach a 7-year-old coding? Why are you stressing the kid with coding algorithms at the age of 7?
Brought that up on this very forum, in fact, that, you know, there's this whole pressure which is coming, unnecessary pressure. Yeah. And there are many children who are interested and probably very good at that. They have the kind of mindset for coding. By all means, just like we encourage our, a child who's showing any kind of skill in a sport, we encourage them by, maybe training them a little bit, giving them more exposure in that particular field. By all means, do that with children who are already inclined.
Absolutely, as long as it is fun while learning. But if you're putting that pressure that this is going to be your career option at the age of 7, So I think that's why I said we need a whole culture and a whole system change.
I have one more video to play and to show you, in fact, and that is by the college student Noor, who was telling us about how things changed for her. So here's Noor talking about how ill-prepared she was when she reached college.
Our style of teaching is such that we engage with our textbooks and our course material for the first time within our classroom and not outside of it on our own. We are not asking questions, but we're actually just raising doubts in class. So I might ask some doubt I had while we were reading it in class, but I will never ask a question that, or even if I do, it's very rare that I'll ask a question which will open up this discussion or which will open up a debate and create this sort of like idea in someone else's head, which is something I struggled with in college and I continue to struggle with in college, even now in my 3rd semester. Because I've never engaged with my text beyond just reading it, I don't know how to nitpick certain ideas and raise questions about it or thoughtful discussions or create this sort of opinion which I can back up with facts. Even research in ICSE and ISE is very limited because we never engage in research other than to make our board projects. That we never read academic texts and follow through references and citations, which A, we don't know how to read, B, we don't know how to write. So when we go to college, we just don't know how to do anything. And so our entire first semester just goes in adapting to this entirely different educational system, it becomes much more scarier, I think, when you have to relearn your entire academic process.
Yeah.
So what Noor is talking about is, one, you're not taught how to read academic papers. So by the time you reach university,
Right.
and you're asked to do, very critical and analytical reading,
Right.
you're asked to, follow citations and readings. You're not able to do that. It takes a whole semester to just catch up with those things. The second point which she brought up, which I thought was just very valid and very on point, is that as in the traditional boards, children are not encouraged to ask questions beyond
Right.
hearing doubts. So
Right.
you do not know how to create conversations,
Right.
how to create debates and discussions, how to bring together that. In fact, I have a compilation of these very points,
Right.
and you'll be able to see that.
Right.
Reaching
Right.
college unprepared.
Right.
I don't know how to write.
Right.
My critical, analytical,
Right.
writing skills are, well, let's just say they're not the way that college students should be.
Right.
Academic rigor leaves no space for personality development or discovery.
Right.
Difficulty to actually learn in college after years of memorizing, which means that you have to redo that entire academic process.
Mhm.
Almost no experience or practice of public speaking.
Right.
Only the good get better.
Right.
So these are the points which a lot of students have brought up. At the end of the day, if we're talking about getting students prepared for the future, we're not doing a very good job.
Right.
They're going to take another semester or two to
Right.
get used to a completely different academic process, which very well could have been incorporated in our academic system.
Right.
So that very fact of not being able to, not knowing how to ask questions,
Right.
create debates and discussions is alarming.
Right.
Because ultimately that's a life skill, and that's what we do all the time.
Right. It's one of the reasons I got very passionate about working with children is because they are the victims of the system, right? When I say the victims of the system is not just the education system. The system is also the parents. The system is also the family. The system is also the peer pressure to perform. The system is also the so-called concept of success, which is about fame, fortune, name, glory, and success at any cost, without really understanding what success means. What Noor said is bang on, because what the modern education system and parents, especially in our geography, in our culture, train us to do is only to use our left brain. Okay, the left brain and the right brain concept. The left brain is the logical brain, the practical brain, the pragmatic brain, and it's very important. It uses the prefrontal cortex, which is logical, rational thinking. But the right brain concept has many more skills, which is about critical thinking, innovation, imagination, creativity, curiosity, and we are not fueling all those triggers of learning. And especially in our geography, including in the US and the UK, character-rooted learning is missing. It's mostly rote studying, which does not really build curiosity, creativity, critical thinking skills. At the same time, while schools invest in training their teachers, they don't train the teacher's mindset. They only train them how to teach. And I always tell teachers, when I start with one simple line by my favorite teacher, who I think was the world's greatest teacher. And the humility that he had, that I cannot teach anyone anything, I can only make you think. This was said by Socrates. And that covers teaching, right? Which means that all parents, all teachers, forget industry leaders, etc., should learn mentoring skills, because mentoring is an art, craft, and a science. But whether it's in schools or colleges or in fancy universities, in startups, in the investment circles, everybody loves calling them mentor and chief mentor without understanding the art, craft, and science of mentoring. I've written a whole book on this, and I've been teaching mentoring in corporates for many years now. So I know what I'm talking about. And why is it a very essential parenting skill? Because again, as parents, don't tell them what to think. Teach them how to think bigger and better than what you could ever think.
So how do we do that, Jerry? I mean, where do we start?
It's simple. It starts with trusting our kids. And that I'm going to pull up my slides now. And that's the reason we've embarked on this mission where we are starting the Mojo Inspirator Life Leadership and Learning to Learn skills, because we've spoken to so many kids, and you listen to some of them who are speaking now, right? And we're calling it Life Leadership and Learning to Learn Success Summit, right? That success doesn't happen because you chase fame and glory. Success happens because, and we're bringing the story, the learning to life with real stories. And this is my Karma Kari Kid power. And if you see the slug line that I wrote over here, at the back of the book, because we need to learn from children who are our future to see, touch, and change the future for the better, right? Now, why do I say we have to learn from our children, right? There's a very old saying that the child is the father of the man. I have tried to interpret it by how we should learn from children rather than teaching them what to do. And then I've taken Khalil Gibran's entire poem from his book, The Prophet, where people say, and now tell us about our children. And he says, your children come through you, but they do not belong to you. They're not an appendage of your body that you will control them. So first of all, we need to let go of control, right? And we need to trust that our children can do things on their own. So, Noor spoke about personality. You cannot build a robust personality without having a great character, right? And character rooted learning is because it's all about human values. It's exactly what we are talking about, empathy, right? Which is the other biggest essential skill of the future besides learning to learn. Empathy and emotional intelligence. And here's the big insight for all the parents. There's somebody on Facebook who's posted, how can all chefs earn as much as bankers? You'll be surprised. There are many chefs who are food entrepreneurs today, and they're millionaires. Yes. Right? And a chef can never be replaced because food can never be cooked by a robot or by artificial intelligence. You'll always need the human touch. And here's the big insight for you. Jobs in the future, which will be there for human beings, are only jobs which require emotional intelligence. And the modern education system does not teach you emotional intelligence. It does not teach you growth mindset. What does growth mindset simply mean? You don't teach children how to compete with other children. You teach children to compete with themselves, because champions compete with themselves, not with others. But because we are so competitive about our percentage and how we will make the cut.
First Anna hai.
We forget that growth mind, it's an entire study by Carol Dweck and several other neuroscientists, and people are not aware of this learning. So at one end, I hold the parents responsible for messing up kids, because kids are big victims of mental health issues and depression today because of parents and the modern education system, especially in our culture. At the other hand, I don't hold the parents responsible because they truly don't know what is happening in the world. Yeah. Right? So that's why when we said that we are going to go into schools and colleges, we work with the Holy Trinity, as we call it, that the child is at the top, but right at the bottom, to ensure that the child is holistically developed, right, are the parents and the educators. Because if we are not working with them, we can't change it for the child, right? So that's the approach that we use when we go into schools and colleges. And we are rolling out a huge program now, first for the youth. We were to roll out the character rooted learning, Mojo Inspirator learning, as we call it, for the students in schools this year. We have almost 100 schools who have enrolled for the program. It's all about life skills. Right. It's purely about life skills. And we bring the life skills to life with real stories. Let's take the story of William Kamkwamba, right? The boy who harnessed the wind. I wrote about him in my book 2 years ago when I finally completed my research and started writing the book, right? Netflix has made a movie on it. If you've not watched the movie, I would urge you to see it. A boy who's expelled from his school at the age of 14, whose parents don't have faith that this guy can make a windmill, goes ahead and makes a windmill purely by learning on YouTube. So that's the concept of learning to learn. How do I use my time to learn in any situation? I don't need to learn only from books. I can learn from anywhere. I can learn from any person. And then he makes a windmill out of the scrap material that he finds in scrapyards. True story. We also have another trap called entitlement. And this is again built by the parents that, when you get a high percentage, you'll get a fancy job. So, a kid passing out of a school, from an MBA school, thinks that, oh, I should be having a salary of at least 40 lakhs to start with. Entitlement issues. Earn your place in the sun. It's all learning, which is about the 5 intelligences: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and moral intelligence, which many people have not covered till date, which is one of the biggest intelligence required to form character. Now, here's the big insight, Parul, that I want to share with you and with all our parents. It is not your talent or competence which takes you beyond or takes you places. We are completely mistaken when we only focus on competency, skills, and talent. Talent and competence is overrated. What really takes a child or anyone beyond is character. What does character mean? Discipline. I'm my own disciple. I don't need my parents to supervise me when I'm giving my board exams. Why should you be supervising them? Have you ever thought about it? Why do you need a person to supervise you when you're giving exams? Defies the purpose of education, which means we don't trust our students, right? So it's like I said, it's a whole system overhaul. And then, what is happening is schools and colleges in India, they just go and study some Finnish model or things which are happening in Scandinavian countries and try to come and try to implement it in India. Hey, it can't work. India is 1.3 billion people.
Yes.
So we need to redefine and recreate our entire education methodology, and that's why I say, because we need to learn from our children. Let's learn from them. Like what you did, Parul, is absolutely right. Let's understand from them what is it that they truly require. Public speaking skills. I've seen people who've gone to the most premier schools and colleges cannot speak to save their lives, and because of which, even though they are very good at their job, they can't grow in their careers, right? And then they go and learn public speaking from some online people without really realizing that that's not the way to do public speaking, because it's all about subject matter.
Public speaking is really all about getting out there, and only a school at the very, very early level can do that. And
Absolutely.
as these children have said, that, unfortunately in our schooling system, whichever the school, it's the good speakers who get selected and they become better, and the others just remain invisible.
Absolutely.
Which is what it's really sad, and I've been through it myself. I've been a victim of that, because in a smaller school I was given that encouragement, but in a larger school I was lost. So
Absolutely.
I know the difference that schooling also makes, and of course what is going on at home is all the more important.
Absolutely.
I asked them about life skills. Where have you learned your life skills from? Zorawar mentioned YouTube and his parents. My daughter mentioned life in general, places, what I see at home, chores, travel. Avni mentioned the shopkeeper who teaches you mental maths.
Right.
And also everything I know from my 4th standard teacher.
Right.
Till the 4th standard, whatever I learned, I remember clearly.
Right.
The rest of it has been specialization, which at times is boring, at times interesting, at times extremely forgettable. Noor mentioned, intercultural participation, especially in her college right now, being able to interact with
Right.
professors, assistant professors, students of various different semesters. So different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of academic qualifications coming together for debate and discussion. There
Right.
you go. Life skills galore. How much more does one need?
Absolutely. And I'm so happy that they're learning from the ordinary people. And I'm happy that you made me think about this, because this is something I wanted to share. Most parents give examples of successful sports people or celebrities without realizing that they are not heroes at all. Somebody who's just a celebrity need not be a hero, right? They're only celebrities, right? Or just because they are big, rich businessmen does not make them heroes. They're far from being, and we can see those stories. You can see the Vijay Malias of the world and the bankers of the world all falling because of lack of moral and emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And what research shows you is that when you tell stories of ordinary people who have gone for extraordinary and not just created empires or enterprise, but have created eternity, which is much bigger than creating an empire, right? Then, the ordinary man can identify with him. A child can identify with him. Like when I tell the story of Dashrath Manji, that a man moved a mountain, while your parents teach you that faith moves mountains. Yeah. And they're like, you serious? He moved a mountain? I'm like, yeah, seriously. I've held the hammer and chisel in my hand. So a man who was 5 feet 2 inches has actually moved a mountain, created a 18-kilometer long road, which is today called the Manji Pass. And they made a movie on him called Dashrath Manji, the Mountain Man, right? So I tell them, watch the movie, watch better movies also, besides just watching Happy New Year and whatever else you watch, right? So I think we need to also tell them that, the real heroes are the ones who are making a difference in the world. So whatever you do, you may do a job in the corporate sector, but you can still make a contribution. And I think that's what we need to teach our children, how to become change champions, how to become contributors that make positive contributions in whatever you choose to do. You may become a lawyer, but make a positive contribution. Don't just become a paper pusher because the corporate pays you well. Right. So, I mean, these are the things that kids should be made aware of so that they can also make the right options, choose the right options where they want to work. Do you want to work with a company which is destroying planet and destroying nature for the people, or do you want to work with a company which is more caring and more humane? And I think we should realize that, it's also very good and important, very essential and important to teach children to be better citizens, to teach children to be better human beings. And you have living examples now. While the grown-ups are cleaning their homes, right, it is Greta Thunberg who came out and tried to clean the world, and the grown-ups felt threatened by it, right? So who's the real leader, the grown-ups or the children? Let's think about it, right? So I think we need to understand that, we need to holistically develop the child, not just develop their rote studying and rote memory, because that's absolutely useless in the long journey of life. So beware of the E3 trap. And the E3 entrapment, as I call it, I've covered this in my book extensively. The first trap, education. No matter where you get educated from, it's all limiting education. It puts you in the box. It does not open the box for you. So we as parents need to dissolve that box. It's just bookish knowledge. It does not work in the journey of life. I promise you that. Don't put people into that education trap, because all education, no matter which school they go to a public school, a government school, or the best of schools in Bombay or Bangalore or Gurgaon or the United States of America, it's all limiting. Your second trap is your experience trap. All of us, and neuroscience and psychological studies prove this, we are not just victims of our own experiences. We develop fears, we develop anxiety, develop stress, because the small part of the brain called the amygdala, which is our brain which stores all our emotions, which makes us fight, flight, or freeze, stores all that you say to your kids. So don't be discouraging towards your kids. Even a comparison with your other kid is damaging your kid, right? So use encouraging language, and don't make them fall into that experience trap, because we are not just products of our own experiences, we are also products of the parents, the teachers, and societal experiences. And the third trap, entitlement trap. Your kids, none of us are entitled to anything. We're not entitled to fancy jobs. And because people don't get those fancy jobs, then they start whining, and they develop what is called as the victim mindset in psychological studies. So be very careful. Don't make them feel entitled, where when they don't get something, they start feeling victimized, because a victim mindset is a very dangerous mindset. Once you feel like you're a victim, then you start whining, complaining, whimpering all the time, rather than taking charge of your lives. I've been speaking about this for the past 7-8 years, that the world is going to change. What research shows you, whether it's World Economic Forum's research or HBR's research or research done by other think tanks at Oxford and so many places, that the world is going to move towards what is called as the gig economy. And they said 2030. I always felt it would be by 2025 or 26, because we live in a VUCA world.
But everything has got speeded up because
yes, the lockdown and the pandemic has made it happen in 2020. So urban clap is going to happen to all of us, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a daily wage laborer any which way, because then I get paid by the day. But the point is that, there won't be permanent jobs. So
Right.
all the careers that parents and educators are preparing children for won't be there in the future.
Right.
So that's what parents need to understand, that you're actually making them redundant, because there won't be permanent jobs. You'll be hired by the gig. You'll be hired by an assignment, right? And you'll be rated. And if you're not completing that assignment on time, they may not even pay you. And if your ratings go down, you may not get another assignment. So you have to think them to be independent. You have to think them to be
Adaptive. Also very, like you said, the whole key word being learning to learn. We have to be adaptive enough to realize that, okay, now it's time for me to change tracks. And
Absolutely.
I can do that very easily, have the confidence.
Absolutely. The message is, hey, don't worry. It's not gloom and doom. In fact, it could be a golden opportunity, because now you can actually pursue your passion and chase that dream that you have, rather than just get stuck in a corporate job, because there are no jobs out there. So it's a grim situation, but at the same time, it's not all gloom and doom, because even at 40 or 50, you can recreate and reinvent and rejuvenate yourself. And that's my big message to you all. So it's all about changing your mindset. It's about understanding that you can be independent, you can be an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is a learnable skill. It's not that you're a born leader or a born entrepreneur.
I think in a nutshell, Jerry, I mean, you're so right when you say that at the end of it, nothing is not learnable and we
Right.
can all do it. It has to start from us.
Absolutely. And it all starts, in the corporate sector, Parul, we do something called how to move from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset. So entrepreneur is not just that you have to start a venture. Entrepreneur is about taking charge of your life. It's about saying, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do, right? Because in the corporate sector, the big problem is the follow-up and the micromanagement. That's why you have dotted line reporting, functional reporting, organizational reporting. God knows how, I mean, it's so killing, right? Because, I mean, it completely stifles an individual, because that person is reporting to three people. The poor chap doesn't have time for herself or himself, right?
So that's pretty much what is happening to our children right now in the school system. Jerry, I'm going to just wind up with a little quick recap of what we've discussed. I think over the entire session, the key points that have stayed with me are that we need to take charge as parents. We have given the entire responsibility of education to our teachers, to the schools for long enough. They have their own constrictions and restrictions, constraints. And there is a lot that we as parents can do. And thank you for putting down some of those points, which essentially starts by character building. I think that
absolutely
stayed with me, that that's entirely in my hands as a parent.
Absolutely, Parul, and there's clear research to show you this, that it is your character that takes you places and takes you beyond. And because parents don't know it, that they don't understand it. But let me give a simple example. Vinod Kambli is born talent, far more superior cricketer and batsman than Sachin Tendulkar. Where did it all go wrong? Character. Tendulkar, who understood that you can never be perfect or never be the best, continuously improved, had the discipline, went on to become an all-time great, right? Macaulay Culkin, another great story from Home Alone, right? Millionaire at the age of 9. You've seen his talent, born talent again, natural born actor. Where is he today? Drug addict, in and out of rehabs, right? Boris Becker, once upon a time tennis legend, bankrupt today, right? So it is your character that takes you beyond. So you build that devotion, that diligence, that industriousness, the enthusiasm that, a child wants to pursue their passion, do what they love what they do, and do it with all their effort. And the final, it's not about success. This is from Coach John Wooden's learning, who created something called the success pyramid. And the two cornerstones of the success pyramid are industriousness and enthusiasm. And his messaging to his basketball players who he coached was, don't worry about winning or losing. It doesn't matter. At the end of each game, whether you win or lose, ask yourself, did you put in your best effort? I think that should be our messaging, because putting in our best effort in whatever we do is completely in our control. Succeeding is not in our control. And I think that's the
great message to wrap up this discussion on, and it's definitely something that we can all implement right away.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jerry, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you, and do give my regards to all the kids. Their insights were brilliant.
Absolutely, and I must, of course, thank the entire team, all the children who gave me their insights and contributed to this discussion.
And if you could share those videos with me, it would be great.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Parul. Thank you for having me.